Hi everyone, I'm Lynn Trong with the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, and I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar hosted by the U.S. Department of Energy Solar Decathlon. Before we begin, I'll quickly go over some of the webinar features. For audio, you have a couple options. You can either listen through your computer or telephone. If you choose to listen through your computer, please select the mic and speakers option in the audio pane. By doing so, we'll eliminate the possibility of feedback and echo. If you select the telephone option, you should already see a box on the right that displays the telephone number. Panelists, we ask that you please mute your audio device while you are not presenting. If you have technical difficulties with the webinar, you can contact the GoToWebinar help desk for assistance. Throughout the webinar today, feel free to ask a question. Please use the questions pane to type in your question. If you are having difficulty viewing the materials through the webinar portal, today's webinar is being recorded and the recording will be available on the Groups.io website. And now for today's presentation. Our webinar today is Solar Decathlon 2019 Design Challenge. Organize your project report. Our speakers today are Rachel Romero, project leader and energy engineer at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. She's also the Design Challenge manager. We have Sarah Zaleski, who is a senior advisor for the U.S. Department of Energy Building Technologies Office, and Solar Decathlon Design Challenge co-director, and Zach Peterson, who is the assistant competition manager for the Design Challenge. With that, I'd like to welcome Rachel to start our webinar.
Thank you, Lynn. Today on our webinar, we will have some remarks by Sarah Zaleski. We will talk through some of the competition information. We will talk through project report and submission details, and then what's next after the project report. Finally, we'll close out with some additional information about Design Challenge Weekend and answer any questions that you may have. So with that, I'd like to introduce Sarah Zaleski. Sarah is a policy advisor for the U.S. Department of Energy, where she leads the local government clean energy innovation programs. Before DOE, Sarah worked for Baltimore City, where she helped establish their Office of Sustainability. Sarah has a BS from Cornell University and an MEM and MPP from Duke University. She is also the Solar Decathlon Design Challenge co-director. Sarah?
Hi, thanks so much, Rachel. So I just really have the great opportunity to say congratulations to you all for making it to this to the finalist category. So I know there is a ton of time and creativity and late nights that went into your submissions. Those really, all of that effort really shone through when we reviewed them. And so just want to send a really great congratulations for all your efforts and for getting this far. The best is yet to come. So just talking a little bit about where we are. So we have 47 finalist teams, and that was down from 81 submissions. So congratulations, it was quite competitive. 47 finalist teams represented through 38 collegiate institutions. You'll see we have folks from around the country as well as from around the world. I think there's 7 international teams in addition to the US teams represented. So really exciting opportunities to meet your peers from throughout the country and throughout the world next month when we meet at NREL. A little bit about what to expect when we meet. So, So first we'll talk a little bit about what you've accomplished so far. So you should consider yourselves winners already. The hope is that you've already learned some critical new skills about high performance buildings, how to design them, model them, communicate them, and applying those skills through really thoughtful submissions that we looked through. Hopefully you have gained some great experience collaborating with your peers and your faculty advisors and potentially some sponsors. So continue that, because that certainly comes across when you do your presentations next month. I hope you've become inspired by designing either visionary homes or buildings. So it's kind of fun to think through what you can design, and hopefully you kind of stretch the limits of creativity for that. And then really being prepared to come with a compelling project package. So in addition to all the work of kind of designing the building, it's how you communicate it as well. And so I think those communication skills, both in kind of your written submissions as well as your oral presentations next month, is a really important skill set. So a little bit about what to come. So what you'll experience when you come to NREL next month, it's a real treat. It's one of, I think, my favorite weekends professionally of the year, and I think other colleagues share that sentiment. But it's a great weekend for networking, both with your peers as well as some, experts in this space and professionals. Certainly, you'll be presenting before some national experts in the high-performance building space. So it's a great opportunity to kind of hone your presentation skills and get that feedback, and then learn from the various lectures and programming around the weekend from national thought leaders. On Sunday, we'll be doing a Career Connections segment where you'll get to talk about employers from a variety of different industries and geographic locations around the country that want to hire folks like you. So I think every year there's multiple success stories of students, finding leads and setting up relationships that eventually lead to jobs. So definitely take advantage of that opportunity. Another real treat is getting to tour NREL's campus, which is, really a world-class facility. It's part of some of their buildings or zero energy buildings themselves. And so the buildings themselves, as well as the people in them and the work that's done, are really inspiring. So you'll get to learn some from that experience as well. And then lastly, getting recognition. There's going to be lots of opportunities, whether it's in the film festival or, the award ceremony on Sunday, to get recognition for your hard work. So congratulations again. And then with that, I will hand it back to Rachel. Looking forward to seeing you all next month.
Thank you, Sarah. All right. Let's get into some competition information. I know I'm a little bit of a broken record at this point, but please make sure you are reading the Solar Decathlon guide. The design challenge is part of this guide, so that's the most important pages to look at. But all of the guidance you need is in the guide, and you need to continue referring to it as you write your project report and these final deliverables. So please make sure to go back through that. And as well, please reference the groups.io project site. So if you haven't submitted an updated roster and have new members on your team, or have people who don't have access to this site, make sure that you are receiving the emails. We will be sending out regular emails through the competition weekend, and are using this platform to hold documents that are vital to the competition. So please make sure that you are aware of what's going on within the groups.io project site. All right. We are getting down to the end of our timeline. You submitted your project progress report, and we've reviewed those. Our next deadline is March 26th, where you'll submit your project report, and we will share that with the jurors so they can do preliminary reviews. Then on April 9th, you will submit your project presentations, poster, and film if you are doing that. And then we will see you on April 12th if you're attending in person. So, some details about the project report that you are probably working on with your team right now. The project report provides a complete submission that will be reviewed by jurors in advance of the competition. It includes an updated project progress report, as well as construction details and narratives for each of the contests. One project report per team will be reviewed for each finalist team. So there are 3 parts to the project report due March 26th. The first is the project report, and then there is a supplemental document which is optional, and then we're looking for 3 project images. The organizers use the images to recognize individual team performance, to integrate it into our event materials, and for outreach. So they're really important to submit. So the project report is limited to 60 pages and includes appendices and must contain all the information the team deems essential to effectively communicate its competition competition solution to the jury. So this is where you have a summary and discussion of analytical results, and then any calculations and equipment data sheets should be in your supplemental documentation. Citations may be in the team's chosen format. We saw that in your project progress reports, but they should be consistent throughout the documentation. So, in your project report, the front matter includes the cover page, table of contents, and list of tables and figures. We noticed that creative teams added images to blank spaces on these pages to supplement their images throughout the report. This front matter is not included in the page count. For section 1, which is your project progress report, it is broken down as follows. There's a 2-page project summary, which you can find a template for on the groups.io. Please follow that template. We look for team information. The jurors want to know more about your team and who you are, and it'll be their first time reading about who has written this report. And then up to 2 pages of info that your team would like to share at that point, 1 to 3 pages of design constraints, 1 page of design goals, and then because the project progress report included a page for how you were going to complete the project, this is kind of a free page. It's your team's choice on what to put in that page. So we've had several questions already today on if you can update the project progress report since you submitted it in February, and the answer is yes. Please update the content here, but stay within the content requirements. Okay, section 2 of the project report is new, and this is your contest narrative. Your team has 3 pages to talk through each of the contests that you're competing in. Tell the jurors about your design in each of these areas. It is important to follow this so the jurors can consistently review project reports within your division. Use graphics where appropriate to help your narrative with the jurors. The appendices in the project report include design renderings and then construction documentation highlights. The construction documents should be carefully labeled, and there's more information in the competition guide on how to submit these documents. Then in the appendices, we ask you to add additional pages about your energy performance. Residential divisions need to provide HERS index rating documentation, and commercial divisions provide EUI target documentation. Careful, mixed-use, multifamily divisions may need to provide a little bit of both if you actually are under the mixed-use portion category. So the supplemental documentation, it can be up to 100 pages, but please note this might not be read in detail by our jurors. Each juror is given a limited amount of time to read each project report. But you can include additional documentation here to support the team's design and goals and any other part of your submission. The project images, we ask that you submit with your project report on March 26th, 3 separate images. Like shown here, 2 images should best represent the project, such as renderings, drawings, photographs of scale models, or other team-generated content, as you can see on the top of this slide. Then also send 1 image of your team. We love to see your smiling faces, and we will be using these in the coming weeks. The project report format requirements are very similar to those of the previous documents. Please review these and make sure to use the submission names when submitting so we can tell which documents belong to your team and that you've submitted a full package of the report and photos. Again, there are requirements for the project report, and project images in the guide, please follow what you can see in the guide. Okay, so then the juries will receive your project report and supplemental if provided. So the evaluation is as follows. On each jury, there are 4 jurors representing the industry in your division. Jurors will review your project reports and develop preliminary evaluation results on that reading. They will come with questions with your project as well to Design Challenge Weekend. The jurors will then listen to your team presentation and ask questions. They will then select a first place winner in each division based on excellence in meeting the overall design intent of the competition and excellence in understanding the contest criteria subject areas. If the first place award winners of a division are graduate student teams, then the jurors will also select the top undergraduate team award winner. Each first place team delivers an 8-minute short version of its full presentation at the awards banquet for evaluation by the grand jury, who then chooses a grand winner according to the process described in the guide. Division jurors will also develop written feedback for the teams that is shared with the teams within 2 weeks of the Design Challenge Weekend's conclusion. So we'd like to share some lessons learned. First, we love to see innovative technologies and approaches. However, sometimes these ideas often require additional detail to explain how they will work in practice in the real world. So how will builders and subcontractors know how to implement? If not, how are you going to educate them to do so? In addition, some of these technologies may need more engagement from building occupants, so take a look at that. Make sure you look at costs and the trade-off between first costs and operating costs. Sometimes you'll see that in your energy modeling. And then make sure that you emphasize the details as if you're responding to a request for proposal. Be thorough for the jurors. And don't forget to cover all the contest categories as we've laid out in the guide. We'd also like to share a few comments from the project progress reports. We shared this via the groups.io project site, but want to share that again here. We talked about your unique and innovative technologies. Make sure that you are explicitly tying your target market and project goals to your design decisions. So we learned about your target market, but how did that affect your design decision? In particular, relate the location and climate to the building's form and function. Clearly address how building science principles such as moisture control, energy performance, thermal comfort have impacted your design decisions. The jurors will be asking questions around this, so it's good to come prepared. Articulate how your design considers all the contest categories. Again, we repeat this, but make sure that you can explain your design in each of the contest categories listed in the rules. In particular, in the project progress reports, there was a general lack of information related to resilience and innovation. And we know each team has their own definition of innovation, and we need to learn about that. Make sure to include relevant graphics to create a balance between text and visual representation to engage the reader throughout. We saw project progress reports that were on both ends, that had too much text or that had too many images. So please make sure to review that and look for that balance. Please again take time to review all the requirements of your division and tell the jurors how you are meeting those requirements. So meeting or exceeding Zero Energy Ready home requirements and or the EUI targets is mandatory. This is not an optional add-on for designs. Teams must provide substantive data via energy model outputs or other analysis methods to demonstrate their compliance with the division energy performance requirements. Notice that mixed-use multifamily, if you have a commercial area, you must meet both the Zero Energy Ready Home HERS target and the EUI targets listed in the guide. All right. A note for teams, work must be completed by the students. That can be in conjunction with the help of a faculty advisor, but the faculty advisor should really be advising the students and giving guidance rather than completing the work. Industry partners are also there to give guidance to the teams. Also, make sure that you have an interdisciplinary team. Teams that have both architecture and engineering and focus on both within their reports are excelling in the competition. All right, and last but not least, in terms of project progress reports, is units. Remember that if teams are using metric units to submit for both, we like to, all of our jurors are from the United States and don't really have time to be converting, so it's helpful to provide both types of units. In particular, the reviewers noticed that units are not typically used on insulation R value, but that international competitors are often using different values. And there's an example here as well as on the groups.io site. So with that, I will turn it over to Zach, our Assistant Competition Manager, who will go over some more details.
Thanks, Rachel. Now we're going to cover the submission details for the project report. Per the competition guide, the project report and supplemental should both be submitted as a single bookmarked PDF. So to be clear, it is one single bookmarked PDF for the project report and a separate bookmarked PDF for the supplemental. Instructions on how to successfully create a bookmarked PDF have been compiled and posted on the groups.io project site. In addition to being a requirement, the bookmarked PDFs are a tremendous help for the jurors who are reviewing your submissions and help make a refined professional product for the reports. The competition guide also has instructions for the electronic file naming. Here's an example of the naming convention. It includes the competition, division, short name of the school, the deliverable name, and the date. This file naming convention helps ensure that we're looking at the correct documents for each of the teams. The collegiate short name list is also found on the groups.io project site. The short name for your school may be different than what you would traditionally use, so please check our designation. Post your project report to the Design Challenge Report Dropbox link. This link is also posted on the groups.io project site in the Messages category. If more than one file is submitted, the organizer will review only the last received file from that team up until the submission deadline. We encourage you to submit early to ensure that the organizers receive your project report. The person who submits the document will receive a confirmation email when the documents are received, as will the organizers. Please retain that email within your team. Jurors will be notified of late submissions to account for it in their scores. What happens with a late project report submittal, you ask? Well, a late project report submittal will still get to attend the competition and present to jurors, but jurors will be instructed to lower your presentation and documentation scores accordingly. With that said, we recommend that you submit several hours before the deadline to ensure you meet it. Okay, we know there is a lot of information to consume and details to keep in mind. We want to, once again, thank you for your attention today as we work through everything. Make sure you continue to engage with the organizers and ask questions so we can help you be successful. Now, let's talk about next steps after you finish your project report. Each team shall develop 2 presentations. The first will be a 25-minute presentation to give to division jurors in person at the event. An additional 10 minutes is reserved for questions from the jurors. This is your team's long presentation. The second is a grand jury presentation. This is a shorter presentation that is only given by the first place winners for each division, and it takes place during the awards banquet on Sunday. This presentation should be 8 minutes and unique from the division presentation. Please review the guide for what the grand jurors will be evaluating the teams on. These presentations should be formatted as a PDF or a PPTX PowerPoint file and have an aspect ratio of 16:9. You're encouraged to embed any videos in the presentation and inform organizers ahead of the event so we can ensure they work properly with our AV system. Division presentations do not have a size limit, but the grand jury presentations are limited to 60 megabytes. Please note the difference in submission name for both of these. Competition posters are optional for the teams, but highly recommended. The poster session will take place on Saturday evening and gives the teams an opportunity to see the various designs across the divisions all in one place. Additionally, Build Challenge will have posters, and you can put your exhibits out for teams to see as well. This provides an opportunity to showcase your unique solutions to other teams who may not have been able to attend your presentation. At minimum, please include the information from your project summary. The poster should be submitted by April 9th as a PDF, and teams should bring a printed version to the competition to display. Okay, now I'll turn it back over to Rachel.
All right, let's talk about Design Challenge Weekend. This event provides a rich experience for on-site participants through networking, opportunities, and attending other team and professional presentations. The organizers expect at least 1 and up to 5 students total from each team to attend in person, and then 1 faculty advisor. Event registration is now open for each individual who plans to participate on-site at Design Challenge Weekend. Please see the groups.io project site for more information. We do encourage all students who are on-site to participate in the team presentation. Faculty may not participate in the team presentation. Though organizers do not provide financial assistance for lodging or travel expenses, a block of rooms at a hotel near the NREL campus is available at a discounted rate. Note that meals and snacks are provided at no cost over the weekend through our generous sponsor donations. Teams are responsible for booking their own travel. So there's 2 ways to participate in Design Challenge Weekend. One we've mentioned is on-site participation. So make sure you get registered today. And the other is off-site participation will be offered via webinar link to students who cannot attend in person. Details will be posted on the groups.io project site closer to the competition weekend. The organizers have posted a visiting NREL guide on both the event registration site and the groups.io project site. This guide includes information for foreign nationals, the hotel block, and directions and more. Please consider the Colorado climate when traveling as well. We have had both winter conditions and warmer late spring conditions at this weekend. On the registration site, you'll also be able to indicate if a team is interested in bringing an exhibit. These are optional, and they may be on display during the team's division presentation and the poster session. All shipping and transportation costs are the responsibility of the team. The exhibit guidance is also on the event registration site and the groups.io project site. As you work towards finishing your project, we do have a hashtag to promote your enthusiasm. We love to see your social media excitement as you develop your building design. So make sure to use the hashtag #SolarDecathlonDesign with your next post. We've been really excited to see Eastern Michigan University's enthusiasm and work on Instagram. Keep up the great building science. So a few more things to conclude with. We need your help for the Friday evening activity. This was posted on the groups.io site and should only take a few minutes. And we need you to answer some questions like name the scariest thing about the future, name something that is a waste of time, and name a subject that should be taught in school but isn't. For your answers to be part of the activity, please fill out the questionnaire by March 8th. It should take only about 10 minutes to do, so check that out. As always, we want to thank our host sponsors and education sponsors. Ingersoll Rand and Solar Edge have been great sponsors to have, and both have hosted webinars, so make sure to check out those webinars on the Solar Decathlon YouTube channel and the Groups.io project site. Thank you to our many education sponsors. These sponsors help to provide key elements throughout Design Challenge Weekend and key programs. They did a webinar in December if you have questions, and they provided a sponsor resource letter that's on the project, Groups.io project site. Our next webinar will be Wednesday, April 3rd at 3 p.m. Eastern. The registration link is here as well as on the Groups.io. You will not want to miss this webinar, as we will have a previous student who presented to both the division and grand juries talking about his experience, and then a previous division and grand juror, division juror and grand juror who has a great heart for this program presenting as well. So you can learn about their perspectives as you prepare for Design Challenge Weekend. As a note, all the webinars are recorded and available now on the Solar Decathlon YouTube channel and the Groups.io project site. So with that, we will take any questions that you have.
Great, thank you so much, Rachel, Sarah, and Zach. We have been getting quite a few questions, and so feel free to continue submitting questions, and we'll go through as many as we can. So the first question, Rachel, go ahead and reiterate that you had mentioned during your presentation how much of the progress report that was included, how much of that can be updated? Can they, are teams allowed to completely alter those to better organize the final submission report?
Teams are allowed to update the content in the project progress report. If you did not get the content correct for the project progress report, please update that. The reviewers that reviewed the project progress report are not the same group that reviews your project report. So it's a new group, so don't cut out any vital information. The jurors will really want to see that information that's in there. Please follow the format that is laid out in the guide so that the jurors have a consistent review between documents. And most importantly, out of that project progress report is getting the project summary correct. And you can find an example of that on the Groups.io project site.
Great, thanks, Rachel. So in addition to that, there's a question regarding some of the templates. For housing projects, there's a template for financial reporting. Is there a similar template for the other categories, namely elementary schools?
For the other categories. Okay, so there is not a template. We just ask that you follow what's in the guide in terms of reporting for each of the contest categories, so that a elementary school report would look very similar to, say, a suburban single family in terms of organization, even if the content's different.
Okay, so this is an added piece of information related to that, what you just said. So Rachel, Zach, can you speak to, like in former years of the competition, is there a standard form to convey the financial analysis?
This year we did not have a standard form for conveying the financial analysis. Teams were guided to use RS means. but we hope that teams will continue to provide a simple and use of standard metrics for the jurors to review your financial analysis.
Okay, great, thank you. So this goes back to you stressing following the guidance that's in the competition guide. So an example is being given related to, in section 2, does each contest get 3 pages specifically, or can they be mixed around? For example, can innovation have 4 pages and operations have 2? And so that ultimately there's an equal, they all equal 27 total. Is that okay?
Okay, so we do state at that top of section 2 that the whole section is up to 27 pages. We will let teams determine how they want to use that 27 pages, but please, please make sure you include every contest category and in that order.
And then, so the next question is about the order. So they do have to stick with the specified order as listed in the guidelines?
Please try to stick with that order so that jurors can review consistently across.
Okay, and there is also a question about the Dropbox that you mentioned. So is there a separate Dropbox for the supplemental submission?
There is one Dropbox link for March 26th. So on March 26th, you will submit your project report to that link, your supplemental documentation, and your 3 images to that one link. So essentially, you will use that link up to 5 times. This is a reason why your naming convention for your documents is so important, because we will have 48 teams submitting 5 documents apiece to that link. So very important that your naming is important, but they all go to that link. There will be a new Dropbox link for posters, presentations, and film submissions for April 9th.
So the next question is just a registration question, but when faculty are registering, do they enter it as an invited participant or a finalist team member?
If your team as a team got a finalist letter, you are a finalist team member, and then it will ask you if you are a faculty. The invited participant is for teams that are not finalists, not one of those top teams. They are new this year. They are allowed to bring 1 invited participant to come experience if they finish the project report.
Okay, great. I'm going to skip over and come back to some of these questions. I'm going to follow up on what you just said for the Dropbox. So the confusion, I guess, is the file upload, because it says that there's the last file uploaded to the Dropbox is what you will be using. So the Dropbox will take more than 1 file.
Correct. So if a team submits 2 project reports, so let's say team from NREL University submits a project report at 11 a.m. and a project report at 4:55 p.m. We will archive your 11 a.m. submission from Team NREL University and give the jurors your 4:55 project report.
Okay, great.
Good clarification.
And just making sure, because there's an additional question about it, that there's clarity in what Rachel said, with the 27 pages, that you can allocate whichever number of pages you need for each of those, as long as you stay to the 27 and stick to the order that is in the competition guide. If there's more questions about that, feel free to email the email box that's on the webpage right now. So the next question we have are related to others attending outside of the finalist team. So are you announcing the jurors, and has it been done yet?
We hope to announce the jurors in the next week. We know that teams want to review that and know who's on their team. We have a fabulous slate of jurors this year who are very excited to meet you and review your project reports. And we'll be announcing that through the groups.io, hopefully by the end of next week.
Great. And related to that, are you also announcing or providing the teams with who will be there that are industry partners? Will the teams be able to have that information?
Okay, so in terms of industry partners, we will announce kind of who are our thought leaders and key partners at these events. A few days before, we will give you a digital copy of the program, and you'll be able to see all of our important speakers there. We will be providing you in probably late March, early April, a list of companies that will be at the Career Connections event, so you can kind of prep for that. But in terms of our industry sponsors, just about every sponsor is sending a juror. So most every sponsor will be represented at this event.
Okay, great. Just a couple more questions. And so Zach had mentioned what would happen with late submittals in that points would be deducted. Is there a specification on like how much points they would be deducted for having a late submittal on their presentation?
No, there's not a specific number of points that are submitted that are removed from their submission, but the jurors are just told to keep that in mind as they're evaluating.
Okay, great. The next question is related to the progress report. Are teams getting feedback on the progress report?
Finalist teams, those of you that received a letter that said you are a finalist team, do not receive project progress report feedback. We have provided feedback across the board for the teams, and that can be found on the groups.io project site that was sent out last week after you received your letter. So carefully review that, because that feedback applied to at least one team, if not more, of the project progress reports. But we will not be sending individual feedback to teams about the project progress report. You will be getting feedback after Design Challenge weekend from the jury for each team competing.
The next question is related to clarification on what is considered late, because the system doesn't recognize when teams are starting to upload and might have errors. So can you give the specific time that an upload will be considered late?
So Dropbox automatically develops the late uploads. A 4:59 fully completed submission is considered on time. 5 o'clock and later is considered late, and it automatically does that per the clock of Dropbox, like the clock. So it then puts it into a late upload folder, which we can see what time it was submitted. We cannot stress this enough. Please, please submit early. It does take some time for your bigger documents to upload, and we want to make sure that your team has uploaded and received that confirmation email before the deadline.
Okay, great. Thank you. And you can hear the seriousness of that guidance. So thanks, Rachel. So the next question is from the international team. So for the financial calculations, should they be done in the local currency or the US dollar?
Great question, international teams. So if you want to do it in your local currency, that is fine, but just like the units, please do it in the US dollars so that our jurors can compare it to the other projects. That would be most advantageous for your team.
Okay, so you're recommending having both the
Yes.
local currency and the US dollar?
Yep.
Okay, great. The next question is related to the schedule. So when will the schedule for the entire weekend be posted, and how much time is available for networking?
All right, so there is a schedule posted on the groups.io site that is a schedule for the weekend. Also, when you register, there is a detailed agenda in there as well. There will be time for networking if you choose to come for the tours on Friday afternoon. There should be some networking time between sessions. We do have a morning and afternoon break. The poster session is a great time for networking if your whole team probably doesn't need to stand at your poster, but maybe assigning one or two to do that and allowing for others to walk around. We highly recommend that. So it's kind of in between and around the different activities throughout the weekend. Career Connections will be 1.5 hours this year on Sunday morning. So that's not only a great time to meet with our industry partners, sponsors, and thought leaders, but with other teams as well.
Okay. I'm going to give you another one, and I'm going to apologize for reiterating. But if teams on the phone, on the webinar today have very unique situations, we encourage you to email the box directly, and you can have a conversation with the organizers. But if a team has a very, say, different or unique approach to the design, can they convince you to change the order of the contest narratives, even if the contest topics and intentions are the same?
Why don't you email sddesign@nrel.gov and we can talk more about that in detail.
Okay, and I'm sorry, there is a couple of questions in regards to on-site team members. So is it possible for other team members who are not included in the 5 presenters to accompany the team at NREL as visitors?
The guidance that is outlined in the rules is what we're going to follow. Each finalist team is allowed 5 students and 1 faculty advisor. So that is it. If you have 2 teams at your collegiate institution, say 1 in elementary school and 1 in suburban single family, you are allowed to have 5 students from each team and 1 faculty advisor from each team. So that is going to stand.
Okay, great. And this is related, and this will be the last question. For those team members who are not able to attend, will they still have access to the industry experts and the sponsors so that they can reach out to them after the Design Challenge weekend?
So if you are not attending, a lot of our industry sponsors have provided their contact information already on the sponsor resource document. So please check that out. If you're looking for a specific contact information, please send an email to the email box and we can talk more about that.
Great. Thank you. If there are any additional questions, feel free to reach out to us. Thanks again to all of our presenters, Rachel, Zach, and Sarah. We are, as Sarah and many of others have mentioned, we are very excited to meet all of you next month, and feel free to reach out at any time after the webinar today. Have a great week, everyone.